Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.
We're so pleased to have on vocalist, bass player, you name it, he does it all, Mike Reilly from Pure Prairie League. Mike, thanks for joining the show.
Well, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Now, Mike, you've got to tell me on this. I mean, growing up with Pure Prairie League and with the huge list of hit songs, this can't be the 6th decade of Pure Prairie League.
Well, strange as it sounds, it definitely is the 6th decade. We started in '69, and so it's been quite a while.
But you know what? It's like, but the music still holds up. I mean, I know growing up, as a teenager, with so many of the hit songs that you guys have done, including Amy and Two-Lane Highway. I mean, so many great songs. You still hear them on the air.
We're very fortunate that that radio and especially the college radio stations that gave us our start back in the '70s.
Right.
They still play these songs, in their classic rotation, and they play deep cuts. So we're extremely fortunate.
Well, and you got to talk to me about this, Mike. You guys were like pioneers of country rock. I mean, nobody really heard of that back in the early '70s and everything. And with the harmonies and with the great musicianship, you guys kind of brought this whole new genre in.
Well, I know we were part of it. I can't take credit, but I would say that Crosby, Stills and Nash and Poco, the Byrds, New Riders and groups like that, that were basically, they were West Coast groups. We were just a bunch of hillbillies from, Kentucky and Ohio. But we had that, sensibility of combining country and rock music, which I guess becomes crock.
Which, you guys were based out of, I believe, Waverly, Ohio, Southern Ohio, and so it definitely, in the center of the United States when you guys launched Pure Prairie League. Right.
Well, John Call, our pedal steel guitar player, who's one of the founding members, still lives in Waverly. He lives in, he actually lives about 3 doors up from the house he grew up in, but he still owns that house that he grew up in.
How amazing. I got to bring this up too, because I always remember the iconic album covers, and when Pure Prairie League would come out and the Norman Rockwell, images, and you guys became known like Luke on the cover of the albums became the mascot, right?
Basically, yeah, it was branding before branding was ever a popular term.
You guys were ahead of the curve to where you had Luke on everything, right?
Well, almost everything. We basically had adopted him as our logo with permission from Saturday Evening Post. But on our last RCA album, Can't Hold Back, which was Vince Gill's first album with the band,
right?
Luke got he was sort of demoted to a little bullseye in the corner of the record, and that, of course, that signaled the end of our tenure with RCA Records. But Luke is he's as much of or more of an identity than anybody in the band. I mean, I can walk down the street, nobody knows me, but if I had on a Pure Prairie League T-shirt with Luke on it, oh yeah, man, I love that band.
Now, see, I would know you, Mike, from your tenure in the band, and obviously with your instruments behind you and the iconic bass behind you. I would recognize you, Mike.
Well, I appreciate that, and there'll be a check in the mail.
Well, you mentioned Vince Gill, and Vince was with you guys for a few years there, but I find the story interesting in how, Vince became a member of the band to where he came along with a buddy, and his band had opened for you guys years before, and then all of a sudden he ends up in Pure Prairie League.
Well, he was playing in a bluegrass band in Oklahoma City called Mountain Smoke, and they opened up a show for us at the Civic Center. We had Vince come up and sit in with us, and I offered him the gig right there on the spot. He turned me down. He said, "No, I'm a grasser." So 2 years later, he shows up in LA at SIR Studios. We were auditioning guitar players, and his buddy didn't really cut the mustard, if you will. But I asked him if he wanted to stick around and maybe jam for a while. Well, we played for 4.5 hours. Then I offered him the gig around midnight, and he said, "Yeah, this time I'll take it."
Well, and I think one of the things that always, for me, Mike, differentiated Pure Prairie League from other bands, and certainly some of the ones you mentioned, were the incredible harmonies. I mean, how did you guys work out those layered harmonies? Because I got to tell you, playing in cover bands like I have, not easy to do.
Well, the thing is that where we all grew up, Southern Ohio and Northern Kentucky, we were listening, growing up, we were listening to the Waverly Brothers and a lot of bluegrass music, and the singing, and those kind of situations was so tight, especially the Everlys. I mean, my God.
Right.
But, that's basically where our vocal style was born out of.
Mm-hmm. And it still holds up. Anytime I hear you guys on the radio or on my playlist, it's like the songs that you guys came up with, you just want to sing along to them. I think they're part of the fabric of America now.
Well, they're definitely the soundtrack of a lot of people's lives, from what people tell me. But yeah, it's just one of those kind of things. It was not an intentional situation. It was just, we just got lucky, and some of the songs hit at the right times, and once again, we used to do so many college dates back in the 70s that every college student that could pick up a guitar, the chords to Amy was pretty easy to learn. So,
the chords, yes. Some of the guitar licks, not so much, Mike.
Well, you gotta keep something for the pat on the back.
Speaking of which, I got to bring up, with your guys' one-hit album, you had Chet Atkins and all these other big stars. How did you get all of these guest stars to come on the Pure Prairie League album?
Took a lot of groveling.
But I mean, you got to look back on that, and what a great moment in time, right?
It was fabulous. That the song that Larry Goshorn wrote called Kentucky Moonshine, we said that would be perfect for Chet. And we had the powers that be in RCA contact Chet, and he said, yeah, I love this song. Let's do it.
How ridiculous is that?
Well, once again, we were blessed and lucky. And, Emmy Lou sang on that album.
Right.
Lonnie Blakely and Renee Armand. Don Felder from the Eagles played mandolin on a song. We had a great sax player playing with us. It was just one of those, moments in time that we were just so lucky and so blessed to be able to do it.
Well, I got to bring this up too, Mike. Obviously in your 6th decade, Pure Prairie League still touring. Where should viewers go to keep up with everything Pure Prairie League? And I understand you may have some new merch coming out even this year. Where can they go to catch you guys on tour and check out everything Pure Prairie League?
Well, on pureprairieleague.com, that's the best spot, because that has all our tour dates. It has all our merch. It has all our records on there. And, if you want to find out anything about Pure Prairie League, pureprairieleague.com is, and no matter how badly you spell it, you'll still get there.
You know what? There's so many great songs, though. It's like, I'm so glad to have you on the show, Mike, because the songs, that Pure Prairie League did just still hold up today. And I know that's why you guys are still able to, tour and sell out these shows and play cruises and everything else. That's got to make you feel great as a musician and an artist to be a part of a band that is just legendary now.
Well, I'm certainly not blowing PPL's horn, but we put the work in,
Right.
I will say that. And, we used to do 250, 275 shows a year, and now we've cut back to about 50. We're all getting a little long in the tooth. But yeah, it's the fans that basically, like you said, grew up with us,
right?
And that they're still there. The demographic in most of our shows goes everywhere from like teenagers, which are the people's grandchildren,
right,
with their grandparents, to that used to see us live at when they were in college.
Right. And, that's what I was going to bring up, because like, even with my daughter that's 16, it's like, she knows your songs. So when they come on the radio or they come on a playlist, she knows Pure Prairie League. And obviously I grew up with you guys.
Well, the biggest thrill for us is the fact that your 16-year-old daughter, appreciates that kind of music.
Totally. Well, and I got to bring this up too, Mike, because it's been a while since you guys released some new music. But I mean, could there be a new greatest hits album or something else? Even some unreleased tracks coming out in the next year or so for Pure Prairie League?
Everything that you just mentioned is in the works. We've been, we record all our shows. So I've been going through, especially since the COVID thing hit, I've been going through mountains of discs, that we record on, and mixing some 32 track stuff here in my home studio. So we've got a live album in the works. We've got a new album of new songs, that some of which we're playing on tour this year.
Incredible.
We've got a compilation of all kinds of stuff, live tracks and old outtakes and stuff. Plus we've got one of the things that we did a record back in '87 called Mementos.
Right, I remember that.
And we had everybody, because that we were thinking that was probably going to be the swan song for the band. So what I'd really like to do is do a Mementos 2, and have all the guys that were in the band that are still alive,
right,
back and reprise their roles on one of those records. So there's plenty of irons in the fire.
Well, and I got to bring this up, and maybe it's only for my own edification, but it would be great to have a documentary covering all of Pure Prairie League through the years. I mean, I know I and a lot of my friends would watch that.
Well, you're in Nashville, start putting the word out. We're not averse to anything that documents that. I've been working on a book about the band, since the beginning. And so
right.
You never know, if I ever get fully retired, I'll be able to work on that some more. So.
Well, I can't wait for the book, but also I really would prefer you not retire and keep working with the band, Mike. That's just me. Having seen you guys live, it's like going, I still want you out there,
Well, I still pop up, on occasional shows and stuff. I'm sort of semi-retired, but depending on where the show is. I mean, I always will come to Nashville and play, at the Franklin Theater, at the Grand Ole Opry, wherever. And there's certain gigs that I really like to show up at and play rhythm guitar and mandolin and sing, and
yeah, you do it all, and bass.
Yep.
Multi-instrumentalist.
Well, jack of all trades, master of none.
Well, I'll tell you what, I can't wait to see you guys on tour when you come back into Nashville again, Mike. Mike Reilly of Pure Prairie League, thank you so much for coming on the show. Can't wait to see all the new music coming out, the book, the documentary that I'm predicting, everything that you guys are doing.
Thanks. I really appreciate you having me on. And once again, it's all about the fans and what they've done for us. And they've provided us with a wonderful career and a wonderful experience. So thank you for having me on, and thank you to the fans.
Can't wait to see you live and on tour again, Mike.
Perfect. Thanks a lot.
Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.